Happy good morning. It's gloomy. It's a pretty gloomy day. So anyway, welcome back. It's been a while. Things have changed. There's a lot going on. And so I'm going to do some updating and do some talking about thoughts on diet with Crohn's disease again and where I'm at. Hi puppies, hi poppers, hi poppers. Oh, don't mind the mess on the floor. The dogs chew up paper towels like crazy. You guys go out. One didn't want to go out. Miss Danny doesn't want to go out, huh? Yes. So, first and foremost, I do want to say that I am wearing the Whitney Simmons Gymshark X 3rd edition. Well, it's a big close up my butt. Leggings, and if you missed out on that launch, if you wanted the leggings, what I can say is the feel of the material and like the fit like on your leg are very similar to Choreo Active. The booty scrunch of Choreo Active, I don't think they have one like that yet, so there's that bit of it won't be as good. But as far as like the feel goes of texture of the material and like the fit on your legs or whatever, Choreo Active, they're almost exactly the same. So get yourself a pair of Choreo Active if you missed out on Whitney Simmons and you wanted them. So I am working on my PhD. Still working full time, so my life is hectic and crazy. Sit and chat in my crazy, messy house. Just ignore that. See the beauty, the beautiful fall decorations. So I have been thinking about this whole diet thing, right? We have, for Crohn's disease, we have the specific carbohydrate diet, Crohn's disease exclusion diet, IBD-aid diet. The Mediterranean diet's brought into the picture for question. However, the research is not showing very favorable results. And when you compare SCD to Mediterranean, very similar percentage results. It was like 40%, something like that. Maybe I can pop up that little study here. But here's where I'm thinking is fat. Ari Levine, if you read the news, you don't want to Google his name right now. But he developed the Crohn's disease exclusion diet. And with that diet, he has been talking about how different fibers may have some negative impacts on our microbiome and on our gut. And also fat is more important to the question than sugar. I haven't let go of sugar. I haven't changed my diet yet, not fully. I haven't committed myself to a diet because here's where I am. If I am not fully bought in, how am I going to change my lifestyle and my behavior, especially with everything I have going on right now? I have a full-time job, I have a kid, I have a stepkid, I'm in a relationship, I'm going back to school with my PhD, and eating healthy isn't just eating healthy. It's totally different when you come into inflammatory bowel disease, and I have a stricture and all of these other crazy things going on that I can't just eat healthy anymore. So fat, back to the main point of all of this, people with inflammatory bowel disease, specifically Crohn's disease, I don't know as much on ulcerative colitis, and I'm sorry, I focus on Crohn's because it's what I have. But people with Crohn's disease have an increased visceral adipose tissue. So think of the abdominal fat, but it's not always visible. So it's not always, you don't necessarily have the abdominal fat but you may have visceral adipose tissue surrounding your internal organs. In the intestines themselves, visceral adipose tissue what's called creeping fat, it creeps in to the intestinal wall. And it can also lead to strictures and narrowing of your intestines. So it's not just inflammatory tissue, but fat getting involved as well. So if maybe this is why, what I'm thinking is why the Mediterranean diet isn't working. I'm moving because of this glare on my glasses and I don't know how to get rid of it. Yeah, so that's my thought process right now. There's the fiber question of if certain fibers, it has to do with butyrate. This is all very technical. But when you have inflammatory conditions, the healthy butyrate that's produced by your microbiome when consuming fiber could actually have negative effects on your gut. So waiting until you're healed or healing to start incorporating those fibers would be best. Now, identifying what those fibers are, it's where Ari Levine was getting at, and now somebody needs to take over because I'm not sure how much more he's going to be involved. And if you haven't, I'll clip the news headline here. Get rid of that. We don't want to talk about it. He was, not just for me, I know for a lot of people with Crohn's, he was very influential, very big in this field. The Crohn's disease exclusion diet has the best data and the most effective results out of all of the diets studied multiple times. So, basing the Crohn's disease exclusion diet, taking that as a base and working from there, that's the ultimate plan, is to figure out how much do we need to change our diets from a standard healthy diet. What needs to be different? Is gluten important? Are emulsifiers important? Is yeast a factor? Are these different fibers a factor? Is it fat? Is it sugar? Like taking the Crohn's disease exclusion diet and then basing it there, that's where we're going. We're taking that and then we're trying to figure out and tweak and figure out what is it exactly that needs to be changed to help people with inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's disease, heal and get better. So looking at fat, looking at the Mediterranean diet is heavy in fat. You eat a minimum of 3 tablespoons of olive oil a day. And I don't know, that's a good question, is how many grams of fat are in a tablespoon? How many grams of fat are in a tablespoon of olive oil? I've never looked it up. These are things I've never thought of because as a dietitian, you're not trained in this field because it's still a growing, evolving field. That's part of it. There isn't any concrete data for people with inflammatory bowel disease, which is why I haven't changed my diet. But we learn about carbohydrates. We learn about heart health, which isn't a low-fat diet. It's a healthy fat diet. Like consume healthy fats, avoid saturated fats. So I haven't been trained to think about and look at how many grams of fat. So technically, a low-fat diet is less than 30% of your calories. And the way you calculate that out is if you eat 2,000 calories, you would, let me pull up a calculator so I can show you. Okay, so we have 2,000 calories a day, and then you would times that by 0.3 to get your 30%, and then you divide it by 9 because there's 9 grams of fat per calorie. So it's 66 grams of fat would be your max if you were eating 2,000 calories a day. 1 tablespoon of olive oil is 14 grams of fat. So if your number is 66 for the day and you're eating 3 tablespoons of olive oil, that's 42 grams of fat. You are at 63% of your fat content for the day. Now that doesn't include, lean chicken breast has some fat in it, eggs have fat in it, which is another one of my points is eggs are a part of the Crohn's disease exclusion diet. You have 2 a day. And they have fat in them, but not much. And then if you look at the rest of the diet, are in an egg. So 5 grams of fat. Compared to olive oil, eggs are not that fatty. So it's 10 grams of fat in an egg. 3 ounces, how many grams? You're watching my thought process here, basically is what this video is. How many grams of fat are in 3 ounces of chicken breast? 3 grams of fat. It's not much. You're talking, that's 13 grams of fat in your day. And 2 of the mandatory foods. The other mandatory foods are apples, bananas, potatoes. None of those have fat in them. It does say, like, if you're going to use oil, the diet does say to use olive oil, don't use the inflammatory oils like palm oil, vegetable oil, those kinds of things. So 13 grams of fat on those mandatory foods. And then your other foods that you eat, rice cakes, rice flour, honey, sugar is okay. There's like 4 teaspoons of sugar or something like that in the diet. So it's a low-fat diet. I almost spilled my coffee. I almost spilled it. I didn't. You know, there's no dairy on the diet. You don't consume dairy, so you don't have to worry about fat from cheese or anything like that. I'm just trying to run through the diet in my head. So it's a low-fat diet, and it's effective in both children and adults. And adults who failed biologics, there's studies on that too. So it is a very effective diet. A CD diet, people eat bacon. We eat bacon, beef. It's a carnivore diet. Essentially, there's no carbs. Well, there's carbs from fruits and vegetables, but like you eat like almond flour. You don't eat flour or rice flour. Rice isn't allowed. Potatoes aren't allowed. It's almost like a keto, almost keto. So I don't think carbs are the enemy. And, you know, looking at the specific carbohydrate diet and looking at breaking the vicious cycle, it's, the science is old. The diet was developed for, I think it was developed for celiac disease, which we ultimately found out it was gluten is the issue, which I thought that's where yeast was, but I know people who have gone yeast free for a year and it didn't help. So I'm not sure yeast is fully the issue. It's more of, the one thing I did find out with processing of yeast is that they use polysorbate, polysorbate 80. There's also polysorbate 60. They're all the same class. It's all the same idea. So I say polysorbate 80, I mean all the polysorbates. Polysorbate is proven to open up the tight junctions in your intestines, causing leaky gut. The initial studies in the 70s, when they were trying to prove that it was safe, showed that it caused intestinal inflammation in mice. So polysorbates are in part of the processing of yeast, so it's possible it's wrapped into the yeast, and that's why when we consume yeast, it's opening the tight junctions, causing leaky gut. Now then it's like, well, why doesn't everybody have autoimmune disorders or Crohn's disease? You have the genetic predisposition to autoimmune diseases. There is research showing that obesity is also linked to leaky gut and dysbiosis, which I think the two go hand in hand, may have different causes, but definitely go together. And emulsifiers are very abundant, and that's a whole nother thing. And I'm not going to get on that topic right now because today I wanted to talk about fat. And is fat the issue? And as far as the evidence that I can see, you take a low-fat diet like CDED, you take a high-fat diet like the SCD and the Mediterranean diet, and this one works and this one doesn't. And very, very limited effectiveness. The CDED is like 80% or more effective, and then the SCD and the Mediterranean diets, 40%-ish for each of them. And that was a pretty well done study. So that's my rant, that's my thought process, and I think fat could be an issue. Anyway, I will leave this video here. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped. If you have any comments, thoughts on this discussion, you want to, add below, comment, please like this video if you enjoyed it, if it helped you, and we will keep working on this mission and find the perfect diet for Crohn's disease. Have a good day.